How about now? Yep. All right. Um, things updated on my system, and when that happens, sometimes I lose my microphone. So started talking, and there was no audio output. Luckily, I'm getting smarter about these kinds of things, and I'm watching that. But there we go. Um, perfect timing, actually. Um, if you guys noticed, I managed to get everything upgraded just before we started today. Um, and you guys may have seen if you joined a little bit early that we were running all of the unit tests, all of the linting, and all of that. It looks like, well, we've got some problems, right? um, our component tests don't work yet. Um, um, our components linting doesn't work. Our unit tests don't work. So these four failed. And this is the thing that I like about NX is that I can run these um, just from the command line, right? So I could copy this, and I could do pnpm exec, and then paste that, and it'll go ahead and run the command. So I get the command that I need to be able to run exactly what's failing. Um, I expected these ones to fail. Everything else is good after the upgrade, so that's good. Um, oh yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot of stuff failing, right? Interesting that I think this is the Angular testing library is running just fine. The keyboard event stuff here, um, but our component spectator. So this may not be a good test. Um, there's a lot of stuff here that I would consider potentially not good tests, and that should probably be in component tests. Um, and my thinking on testing's changed quite a bit. Anyway, I'm jumping right into it just because I got confused with the audio stuff, right? First of all, thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Happy Sunday. I had a struggle this past week. There's just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of meetings, last minute meetings happening in the evening. So my Tuesday and Thursday streams didn't happen. Um, one thing for sure, I'm not missing Sunday streams. So I will always be here on Sunday, um, unless I'm on vacation or some other emergency. Um, but I'm hoping things have calmed down quite a bit lately. So I'm hoping things go better this week. Um, so Tuesday and Thursday should happen. I should be better at communicating. Just been, I don't know. You guys don't need sob story, but things have been things have been crazy. I think they're calming down. I actually got some time to sit down with a game I've been wanting to play for a while now. The Factorio Space Age came out, so I got a little bit of time yesterday in between just the stuff I was doing to prepare for the stream today, um, and then yard work. Um, it is ugly outside today. It looks like we're going to get a lot of rain, potentially snow up in the mountains. We've got snow up in the mountains already, but it's starting to cool off. The frost came in and killed everything that we were growing in the garden. So all the tomatoes and the ones that survive are like the onions and things that are underground. But anything that was above ground was killed by the frost. So we pulled that all out yesterday and just other typical yard work like mowing the grass and um, well, I think we're gonna trim our trees and stuff. But yeah, um, welcome. I've been thinking a bit about this project because if we look, this branch was started on September 8th, and I haven't merged it back in because we don't have. I don't merge branches in from the stream until they're working, right? So this branch has almost been running for 2 months. Part of that is that we're really only dedicating 2 hours a week to getting up to date, and this was a fairly big. Um, this is a fairly big migration. Um, I didn't realize going into it. I actually expected it to go um, fairly quickly with a lot of cutting and pasting. And to be fair, right, there is a lot of cutting and pasting going on. There's also a lot of rethinking and reworking, and part of that is probably largely due to the fact that I understand things better now than when we put these together almost 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. We're going on like 2.5 years ago when this code was first written. Um, so there is some better understanding there. I've also changed some of the things that I do as a developer, and then we've had some discussions and talks about things. Right, this is what we're in the middle of right now. This path, we've got the update cell value, firing off this cell updated event, and now we're looking at our pencil marks. And making sure our pencil marks work. So that's where we are today. Everything's upgraded. I am using a new theme manager. So Windows has this tool that you can install that does a lot of things to speed it up and to help clean up some of the mess that's caused. So I am using a new theme manager. So these aren't the default Windows themes. You may have seen, like before the stream, I was noticing that there's some weirdness going on with the coloring here, and my menu's a little bit strange. I don't know what's going on with that. It was a little bit bothersome, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right, let's get into things. Before the stream, I did update WebStorm. And you guys may have seen that WebStorm posted on Twitter that WebStorm is now free for non-commercial use. I also saw that another tool that I really enjoy, Writer is now free for non-commercial use. And Rust and Aqua. WebStorm doesn't have that tag. Maybe I'm wrong. So transparency here. Oh, that was the opener of their WebStorm speaking. Okay. Well then, thank you for confirming that, Michael. I want full transparency here. I've been using WebStorm, I would say since 98 or 2000, somewhere in that time period. I started using WebStorm a long time ago. Not WebStorm, sorry, JetBrains tools. I started with ReSharper. Because back in that day, is ReSharper even in here? There it is right here. I started with ReSharper. Back in those days, I was doing a lot of C# development, .NET development. And I was working on Well, and I did a lot of Java development too, but I didn't use. Did we do? Yeah, we did Java. But I didn't use. I used Eclipse. I didn't use. Didn't use a JetBrains IDE. IntelliJ was the big one that they had back then. But I didn't use that. I used ReSharper and .NET, and so I've been using their stuff for a long time. I have participated in studies, so they've given me free licenses over the years for participation in their studies. Um, and then as part of, um, I do receive, um, the tools for free. So I want to be totally transparent about that. I will tell you that me receiving the tools for free doesn't mean, um, well, I mean, obviously there's probably some bias sneaking in there, but I would still be using all of these tools. I would still be paying for the ultimate license. I really enjoy JetBrains. So these are all my personal licenses. I've been paying for them for years. Um, I am receiving them for free now, just because of various things that, yeah. And but if I wasn't receiving them for free, I would still be paying for the ultimate license. And I do use a lot of their tools. In fact, I have an idea for a .NET project that I'd like to work on, and so we'll be using Rider. Um, so I did want to just let you guys know, if you guys are curious about WebStorm, I think it's free. You can use it in your personal stuff as long as it's non-commercial. Otherwise, pay for a license, and um, you know, I enjoy it. So anyway, by the way, Michael, good to see you. I was really disappointed when I had to miss the Tuesday stream because I told you we were going to stream on Tuesday, um, and then um, so a bill. I'm what's known as a bill raiser. A bill raiser is somebody who makes sure that our hiring process is a good experience for the person being hiring. So I make sure that it's a good experience for the person being hired. I make sure that it's a fair experience for them. I also make sure that the people that we're hiring are going to meet the standards that Bill is looking for. So everybody who is hired at Bill goes through some of the executive people. Um, Let me pull this over. This is interesting. I wonder if this is part of the update today. Um, why are you using? That is the wrong browser. Why? So the frustration there is I didn't I didn't change my default browser. Um, and now I'm getting um, a different browser experience. It's just that kind of stuff is frustrating. I need to get a one-time password. Um, so that's what I'm grabbing right now. Um, there we go. I just I dislike the fact um, Never mind. Wait. What is going on here? So I may have to remove some plugins because it looks like they're trying to force some auth going on. Anyway, I got distracted by the pop-up, right? There's been a lot of interviewing going on. And so both Tuesday and Thursday, I was added to some last minute bill raiser events, where we were reviewing hiring of candidates. And which is good. And anybody who's watching, if you guys like, well, you know what? I'll give my company a shout out, right? Anybody who's watching, if you go here and you go to the company page, come on, and you click on careers. We are hiring, and if you look, we have 127 job openings right now at Bill. So we've got everything from automation. We're looking for distinguished engineers and architects, down through help desk support and director level, Salesforce. So senior software engineer backend, this is going to be Java based. So all of our backend stuff, anything that says backend on it is going to be Java based. Some of this might be Elixir based. But like the senior software engineer here, so these two, identity platform, travel and expense. This is probably going to be React based. This one will be Angular. Security engineer. So we've got senior staff level, a lot of senior staff level. And a lot of this stuff will be, we even have data and AI and scaling and all sorts of stuff. So there is a lot going on if you're getting into the Halloween spirit. A little bit spooky. Elixir is fascinating to me. That's a language that I would love to learn. But the identity platform is Angular. I think identity is doing MFEs, so there might be a little bit of React in there. The interesting thing about Bill is we're kind of split 50-50-ish. So our big main product, which we internally call Direct, is written entirely in Angular. But there are parts of it that are MFE, micro front ends, and those might be written in Angular. They might be written in React. I mean, it's almost a 50-50 split. And then there's the other side. So I live near our Draper office. Our Draper office they purchased right around the time that I started. Um, and that became bill, spend, and expense. Everything bill, spend, and expense, so travel and expense, spend and expense, things like that, are going to be React. Um, if they're based out of Draper, it's a high likelihood that it's a React project. If they're based out of San Jose, it's probably about a 75 to 80% likelihood that you're going to be doing Angular. So if you guys are interested, go to bill.com. Um, you know, look up a job, see if you're interested, and go ahead and apply. Um, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on on Twitter. Um, I, I try to check those at least once a day now. So I will get back to you. But yeah, if you're interested, please feel free to apply. Our interviewing process um, involves a couple of rounds, depending on level. But you will probably ask to do a coding problem, usually something algorithm related, and then there's typically like a retro and then a design problem. Are things that you'll typically see across all levels, unless you're going for a junior. If you're going for the junior level, then it's mostly just coding. Um, so yeah, take a look, see if anything interests you. I would love to work with people. Yeah, no problem. And Bill has been a good place to work. They they take good care of people. So definitely check it out. We need the help. We're doing so many projects right now. And if you guys see anything for the embedded platform, um, that's the project that I work on at Bill. So if you apply for anything that says embedded platform, you'll be either on a team that I work with or directly on the team that I'm on. So if you want to be coworkers, I know we have a couple of things out there for the embedded platform. I know a couple of teams that I'm working with are looking for people. In fact, on Friday, we just did a review for a senior staff position for a team that I work with very, very closely. So if you're at senior staff level, that would be a position that I would work with daily. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that senior staff position that's up on the site. And yeah, so I know that there's the job market's tough, so please feel free to look. And I would love to work with any of you guys. Anyway, back to the code. We're looking at the pencil marks, right? We're looking at the old store. And so we've got the updated rows and the updated columns. So let's start by trying to update the pencil marks for a specific row. And this is probably where I'm going to want to start. Well, we'll see. Anyway, we've got the updated row. So if we go look at the old store, we've got the pencil marks in here somewhere. It has error, check grid for errors, update game 1, check grid for win. Set row values to hide for cell. And solve one cell, reset grid. Here we go. Set row pencil marks. This is what we want. And it's an effect, and it's taking in cells, but it's also grabbing the get cell values to hide. Oh, interesting. This is an interesting way to do it. I was confused about what's going on here, but get cell values to hide is a function down here. But, and basically what it's taking is we're mapping the cells and we're turning them in. Value is in cell value. So we get the row, and then basically what's happening is we're determining which cell values need to be hidden for the row. And then we're updating every cell in that row, right? And then we're calling the set cell values to hide. So let's do the same thing. We'll start with that, and then we'll move to something. We may refactor in the future, but we want with methods. For sure, because we're going to patch it. So in the old store, we called this method set row pencil marks. So we'll do the same thing. We'll call this set row pencil marks. And so we know the row here. So we will pass in the row. And it's just a cell state. So we can just say, hey, this is a row and it's a cell state array. So it doesn't like that this is empty. It doesn't like that I haven't used state, and it doesn't like that I haven't used row. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to just get the values. And we'll just patch the state with the new row. So we'll modify each cell in the row, and then we'll patch the state with that row. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to get the cell values to hide. So we'll just we'll say const cell values to hide equals, and we'll just say get cell values to hide, and we'll pass it a row. Right. This needs to be a function, so we'll create a function. And we'll move this to the bottom. Boom. So this is going to return cell values, cell value array. And have I not imported that? I haven't. So there we go. So now we've got our function. So now we need to determine how Yeah, I actually, so I like this, what it's doing, right? Um, and as soon, yeah, we can just move that down. So what we're doing is we're taking the row, which is just an array of cell states. We're filtering the state um, down to where the value is not null. So if we look on the cell state um, has a value on it, and that value can be null or undefined. So we actually don't want the triple equals here. We want a double equals. So if we have a cell value, we're going to return that cell value. And I actually think we may want to use a map here. Is it going to matter? I think we're already handling the case. Like if the row is full of all ones or things like that, this may work. We may want to use a map here. Have you guys? There's a. I'm a big fan of dark humor, and there's a version of Dora on YouTube that was filmed in a comedy club in Denver, I believe, where the whole premise is that Dora is trying to get from. I think they start in Mexico, and they're trying to smuggle some contraband, we'll say, to not get in trouble. They're trying to smuggle some contraband to a street in Denver. That's why I think it was filmed at a Denver comedy club. And I can't remember the name of the comedy troupe, but they've done a similar skit in like the UK and in New York and different things. And I've seen different things. They take children's shows and they turn them into dark adult humor. You're careful of Dora libel. It's not the Dora libel that I'm worried about. It's more the how do I put this? We used to be able to say more things. And I'm not talking about we used to be able to say talk about more things. And I'm not talking about like, bigotry related stuff or things like that. I'm talking about legit topics, and even topics that that would be important to talk about. Like a good example of this is the fact that now, due to the way censorship works and things like that, people have to say things like unalive, right? And things like that. So I'm not so much worried about the Dora libel as I am worried about the filters and censorship around the terms that I think would be perfectly normal to say. But again, I have to be conscious of, it, it's a weird place to be in, right? So that's what I'm being careful about. The Dora libel. Here's a funny thing: your brand is and your trademark are only as protected as you protect them. And so there are people out there that they may not want to proceed with legal proceedings, but they have to, right? If you don't protect your trademark or your brand, then you can lose that trademark or brand. Um, or it can be diluted, and it's difficult to recover from that. One of the ways to see this is um, in the region of the United States where I grew up. A pacifier was called a binky. Um, binky is a brand of pacifier, um, but because it's been taken over and meant to mean like a generic term, um, you know, binky will never get that part of the trademark back um, because they've allowed it, right? It's in their best interest. It's very similar to some parts of the US where still to this day, many people will call any console system a Nintendo, right? Oh, they're downstairs playing Nintendo when really, they're playing on a PS5 or an Xbox or who knows what, right? Um, so, that kind of trademark dilution, they don't tend to protect. But if you start doing other kinds, then yeah, you might run into trouble. My wife was making concert tickets and selling them on Etsy, and she got a cease and desist letter from Taylor Swift's lawyers um, because they have to protect Taylor Swift's brand. Um, so there is a bit of that going on. Um, you know what? Hmm. So I'm thinking through this. Right now, I'm returning a list of cell values that should be hidden. What I really could do is return the cell states and modify those cell states. One thing I really wish we had in JavaScript is the pipe operator. And I think we've talked about this before, but JS pipe operator. So here we're in a stage 2 proposal for this, so I'm hoping it shows up soon. But what the pipe operator does is it solves a problem that we kind of have here. So this row, for this, we go through and we filter everything in the row, and then we go through and we map everything out, right? There, no swiping my IP. Michael, that's awesome. There is. Um, so um, there are a couple of function currying, F sharp pipes. Does this? Yeah. So underscore yeah, underscore uses, they've got their stuff, right? Like filter, and then you can pipe through the filter, right? Notice here that the predicate goes to the pipe, then it goes to negate, then it goes to the filter, right? Ramda includes one. Ramda includes a pipe operator. Um, a lot of libraries include them. I'm not seeing here. So like reduce. Um, Oh, interesting. TC39 has already rejected the pipe operator twice. So, um, rejected twice. Function helpers. Anyway, there are some libraries that do. Um, uh, Continue without supporting. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but I also um, wait, what? Oh, you have to use the Babel plugin pipeline operator proposal. Oh man, that's cool. That's really cool. Um, so if you're using Babel or Babel, however you want to pronounce it, then um, but so like JS pipe function. Um, so Ramda has a pipe, right? So here you can see that they're composing these functions, right? Um, and so right, so they're composing, and this is kind of like piping, but it's done reverse, right? So the thing that actually happens first is the get name, and then they uppercase it, and then they get the 6 characters, right? Um, so now they're going to reverse it, and so right, so they're showing where a pipe really helps here. Um, so with this, you could actually pipe get name to uppercase to get 6 characters to reverse. And the way pipe works is it returns a function, and the function, the parameters are what you pass to the first item, and then it goes. Then this value gets passed to this, right? These functions. And we could easily do we could easily write a pipe just like this, right? Where you just take in some functions, it returns a function, and then you reduce it, and you pass, you take the function and pass it down, right? Um, so this is actually a really good article. I'm going to share this article because this is really good. Um, Really good. Yeah, I really like this pipe. Um, I was thinking about building one myself. Um, and compose is the opposite of pipe. But man, I'm going to steal this. Eric Elliott has some really good stuff. Um, let's go take a look at his stuff too. Um, Eric Elliott writes some really good functional stuff. And he is somebody that I do follow on Medium. It doesn't look like it links straight to him, but to the article, but that's functional programming articles right here. So, oh yeah, he's going through, and this is like when you get into functional programming, this is like the classical primer, right? On like how to use reducers to create all the like the map, right? So a map can be used with reduce, filter can be done with reduce, compose function. So here's his compose function. Oh, he even goes through Redux. Where is his pipe function? Reduce is versatile. Map, filter, compose, pipe right here. So here's his pipe function. Definitely going to share that. Swiper, the IP swiper, man. Great callback, Michael. Yeah, actually, good artists create, great artists steal. I'm just going to leave that there, right? No, I will attribute people if I know where things are coming from. So let's go ahead and we'll just add a function in here, right? That's not the function. That's the Medium article. Where is pipe? Right here. So let's figure out where pipe should go. Actually, first let's look. Package.json. Got Angular, Better, Baker, Iris, Cypress, ESLint, Storybook, Striker, Types, Cypress, ESLint, Jest, NX Prettier, Storybook. Okay, I wanted to just make sure. Oh, it might be up in the actual dependencies. Okay, I don't have. Oh, it's interesting that I have Zone.js in here still. Thought we'd gone to zoneless by now. I think we have. But I can't test it because I can't launch the project. So we don't have this anywhere. We don't have anything like Ramda or Lodash or underscore or any of the other libraries that would provide pipe. But I don't really think we need them. So let's take a look and see where this might best fit. In our libs, components, domain, no. Pipes, I think these are our NGRX pipes. Let's generate a new NX library. Creates an NX library. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So the directory, we want this to go into, I'm trying to avoid creating something like utils, shared, things like that, because those tend to be places where things get dumped. So let's call this, thank you for taking over. Let's call this tools. It won't be buildable. It won't be lazy. The name of the library is tools. This, I think, is new. I'm not sure what it does. No parent, not publishable, don't need routing. Add module spec file. No, we don't need it. We don't need Tailwind. Change detection. I always set this to on push. Compilation mode, I just leave it as is. Display block. This library shouldn't have UI in it, so we won't do that. Flat, no. Import path. This is something that I want to take a look at in the future, but if we look at like our grid store, we're using the @sud, I believe. So I believe we're going to use @sud slash tools. And then the inline style, don't care about the template. Linter, ESLint, prefix to apply to selected generators. We won't have those, we'll leave it alone. Selector, we don't care about. Parse options project. This is used for an ESLint. Rules, simple name. Don't include the directory in the name of the module or standalone component entry of the library. Whether to skip the creation. This is nice, actually. Whether to skip the creation of a default module when generated, yes. We'll skip a selector. We will skip tests. Don't skip the TS config. Standalone, yes. Strict, yes. Style, we can use CSS. Tags, view encapsulation. This all looks good. So if I look at what we're going to generate the project.json. We're going to generate a whole bunch of configs, source, index. And then it wants to generate a component that we'll just delete. That all looks good. So we'll go ahead and generate this. And then we'll clean this up. Just making it implicit. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what it was installing. I think, well, I know with like NX and with like the Angular tooling, if you use like ng generate or NX to generate your tools, you can set it so that the default value will be on push. But yeah, the reason that a lot of people disagree with doing the on push is it could break wait, libtools already exists? Okay. Oh, where is libtools? I don't see it. Oh, I'm in libs components. Libs tools did exist. No, it just created this. Like right now. So it just created the libs tools. So inside of here, we're going to remove this. Yes. And then we will add a new file, and this file will be called. Actually, let's not do that. Let's add a new folder. New folder. New directory. We'll call this directory functional tools, right? Functional. And inside of functional, we will add a new file. We will call this pipe.ts. And I'm going to delete this index.ts. And instead, we're going to add a new file here. We'll call it index.ts. And inside of here, we're going to export star from dot/pipe. And yeah, it's not a module because it doesn't export anything yet, but that's okay. We'll fix that soon. So the other thing we need to do is we need to go to packet or not. We need to go to tsconfig.base. And inside of here, we're going to look for tools. So here's our tools. We want to add tools dot functional. And inside of here, we're going to go to source functional. So libs tools functional source libs tools source lib functional. So that should work. So libs tools source lib functional. Yep. And then it's our index.ts on that. Yep. So that works. Our index.ts doesn't work yet because we don't have anything in here. Now, if I export, what doesn't it like about this? The rest parameter has an any type. So functions. See the any type. This has to be any. And this is a function. What doesn't it like about this? What did I do? It can't infer the we could go here and go with but I don't like that. With the any type, our pipe now takes in. See, I don't like what this really should be. It should be um, it should be a function that takes in any parameters and returns a value, and this should be an array. Uh Man, I don't know if I want to get stuck in um, strongly typing this because like here const test equals, and here we can go pipe. You know what? I want to rename this. I want to call this pipe functions because I don't want it to get confused with other. So here, like, say we do um, const sum equals that, right? And it's not a sum. We'll do add one. Well, actually, let's do sum, right? We want x and y that are numbers, and it will return a number and will return x plus y. And after this, yeah, we'll double it, and then triple it. Sure, why not? So what I would like is to do sum and then double and then triple, right? But right away, sum doesn't work. Because what we want to have happen is the output from the function should pipe into the next function. Um, let's go look at our store again, right? Because I don't know how deep into this. So we want to call filter on a row. Um, this isn't going to work. We'll leave this in place for now. But this isn't going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is I would need to replace filter and map. So we'd have to do a reduce, and I'd have to write a filter and a map function. In that case, we're going to go deeper down the functional rabbit hole. we're going to go to Ramda. So Ramda is basically Lambda functions. It's pretty easy to use. But very, very similar to like Lodash and things like that. But it does have a pipe operator. So we can see here, the remaining arguments must be, see, the first argument can have any arity, and that's what I wanted to do with the pipe that we had. And then the remaining arguments must be unary. Is named sequence. The result of the pipe is automatically curried. And so you can get this function where, right, we can raise it to a power, negate it, and then increment it. So this basically becomes 3 to the 4th, right? 3, 4, we pass in the math power that it needs. Negate adds this. So, you get 3 to the 4th negated, and then you add 1 to it. So if we used Ramda, this would become pipe, and then we would do filter and then pluck. Let's talk about it at a later time. We've so here's one. No, we can do it, right? We can do it. Because there is one other thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that these were unique. And Ramda, I think, has a unique function. Yeah. So we could do a unique on this. So yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna get a little bit functional on this. You're on a September branch. I am. I started talking about that in the beginning. That it's been a while since I've committed this, and it's because you guys snipe me and ask great questions. So we're gonna pnpm install Ramda. And Ramda is one of my favorite libraries, but people have a love-hate. Oh, that's not the one that I wanted, is it? Oh, I spelled it wrong. npm remove Ramda. So I was trying to spell it like lambda. And instead, pnpm install Ramda. There we go. So now if we go take a look at this, our package.json has Ramda 030. I didn't commit this either. Let's go ahead and commit this. So we updated dependencies and added Ramda. Um, and then here, pretty or ignore, added in Angular. I don't know what added that. So we added tools library. Um, so we'll derive pipe the way that Ramda does it in the future. Right now, I would like to move forward on what we're doing. So what we can do is we can import pipe as pipe function from Ramda. Um, oh, wait, no, it should be there. Ramda. Oh, yes, that is right. Um, Ramda doesn't compile with TypeScript types. So we need to add tsconfig stuff to it. So there we go. There we go. And now it's just telling us we've never used it. Um, Type functions. And so here we can say that we want to, we can say const values to hide equals, and here we can say pipe functions, and now we want to pluck, and we can import that. And then from pluck, we want to we want to call filter. And sometimes, so if we go take a look at Ramda's documentation, and we look for filter, so here, let's just do const type or items equals pipe. Here we're going to pluck and then filter. Um, so that gives us a function that we can now call. And here we can say, so let's just do const test objects equals. We'll create an array, and here we'll just do name undefined, an empty name, JSON, and then name Michael, right? And then we can just do console.log. Well, actually, let's just go items. And we want to pluck the name from test objects. I think that works. JSON is not defined. Oh, yeah, that's true. We need some strings in here. Um, so what we want to do is we want to do test objects map this. Pipe width. No, this is definitely a pipe. Think Ramda pipe array JS. I always have to remind myself. Can I not just... So here in the Ramda stuff, oh man, it went away. So const test equals pipe pluck and then filter x does not equal null. So then const items equals an array. We'll go empty. We'll go name Jason and name, oops, name Michael. Boom. And then I should be able to just go test. And here I should be able to say name, and then maybe I pass in items here. Does that work? Test FN. There we go. And the other thing I can do is, because it's Ramda, we could do partial application and query. So yeah. So it takes a little bit of time to remind myself, but like here, if we just do this, we can say const extract names equals that. And then we can just do extract names and then items, right? Wait, I can't partially apply this? Oh, well, I can just say equals items or to extract, boom, and then we can go to extract here. And there we go. So this is a cool thing about like Ramda and querying and things like that. I thought I could partially apply this. But I'll have to remember how to do that. Right? But it's weird that it's telling me that test fn is not a function. But anyway, so this is our, and I think there's actually a Ramda function. If we go here and we go filter, is there nil? Yeah. So is not nil. Yeah. So here we could go filter and then we could go is not nil. It doesn't like pluck. Where did pluck come from? I think pluck came from the wrong place. Yeah, it came from RxJS and not Ramda. We're going to go this route. Star as R. Ramda. And then down here, we're just going to, our value to hide is going to be r dot pipe, r dot pluck, r dot filter, and r dot is not nil. So is not assignable to prop never. Why doesn't it like my pluck here? Um, do I have to just go name here? It doesn't like that. Expected 2 arguments, but got 1. And we can pass in row also. It really doesn't like my pluck here. K extends property keys, prop. K extends placeholder, never or K. U extends this, blah, blah, blah. Is not assignable to prop, never collection. This. I mean, I could do this. Now it doesn't like row. But const uh, row dot map doesn't work here. I was using map before, um, but oh, name. What am I doing? Of course, this doesn't work. Name doesn't exist here. It should have been. It is. It's pencil marks and then row, right? Cell value. It's value. And it might not be picking up the currying. Oops. We're going to pluck value off of row, but row can't see the um is not nil x. Got a pipe, got our pluck and our filter. Is not nil. That's yeah. That should work. Got that, got that. Now it's definitely saying that test function is not a function. I just do build is not nil filter here. I don't know why it's giving me test function is not a function. That should work. So we are getting that function. Okay. So the currying is causing a problem. That's okay. I don't need it to curry. Um, it's so weird that it throws that error, but it still gives me output. And then here, I don't understand why it's running through this so many times, but um, here I should be able to just go filter R is not nil. But type cell state is not assignable to type read only unknown error like array or that. Oh, oh. Luck is the problem on value. Should have been reading this better. Um, because it's optional. Um, if we go back to the documentation on pluck, it has to exist. There we go. We want prop, not pluck. So here, if we go prop, boom, think I can also now move this out to here. Does that work? Okay, that doesn't work, but that's fine. I can figure that out later. I can stop trying to be cute here, right? And just get this to work. So now we can see that values to hide. Um, should be able to return values to hide. Um, we can comment this out for now. And now it's complaining because values to hide is an object. Why not do cell state here? Now what have I broken? Why doesn't it like this? Expected one argument but got two. I take this out. The first one takes a cell state. Can it go cell value here? Nope, that breaks stuff here. But if I do cell value here, then it breaks here. Was expected one argument but got two. But if we do this, values to hide, the type on values to hide is an array of object, because pipe is object any, read only unknown, and then the return type is object any. Oh, that's a good thing to know here. That's why I was having the problem. It's not automatically curried. So this is weird that it's not inferring my types, because this should be cell state here, right? And then the next one should be cell state, and then cell state. I think that works. Oh, this should be cell state or undefined. No. Now what's it complaining about here? What does prop return? Prop returns that. Hey Marcus, welcome to the stream, man. Man, you sniped me good today. And it takes me a while to see if we grab X from this, we get 100. X from that, we get undefined. Prop 0 from that, we get 100. Increment prop X, that gives 4. So compose runs backwards. So our pipe, this would be reversed. We would do increment and prop. But it's not inferring my types properly here. And the problem is that U extends, so it has to have a value that's unknown. Then object U, it returns a function that returns U's value, right? Is this really a function? And this is getting a little bit crazy. Cell state does have a value on it. So I'm missing something here. Type cell state has no properties in common. Oh. Is it this now? No, because now row and now that does not satisfy the constraint of any. I don't know why. Let's take that, right? Cell state has no properties in common with value unknown. So this array has no properties, but r.prop, it says fine. We'll go this way. R.map cell to cell value. Can I do nullish here? Optional. What I don't understand is why it can't infer it from here. Now values to hide is that. And now if I grab the filter, that should be fine. What if I change this over to, oh no, it doesn't. Cell value it's really struggling. So it's really struggling to infer the types. Because now if we go back here and we go to prop again, and we take this off, does it work? No. Now it really hates everything. Um, expected 2 arguments, but got 1. Oh, yeah, map is, we're going to go with map for now. I don't know why the typings aren't working here, and that, I mean, we're struggling more with that than anything, but now values to hide will be that. Um, and the reason we went down this rabbit hole um, is due to the way that that this stuff works in just like JavaScript. So if we take a look at the stuff we had before, right? Um, so what would happen in this case is like row dot filter would go through every item and create an array, right? With 9 items, that's not a big deal. And then map would then go through and map everything to the cell value, right? So we'd filter out everything that's null, and then we would return the cell value. We're actually not doing this the same way, and that might have been part of the reason why we were struggling here. Let's go the other way around and see what happens. So if we go x and r is not nil, x dot value, we make x of type cell state. Boom. And then our map value doesn't work, but now I should be able to do pluck value here. And now my return type that doesn't work. But here, I don't think I need the casting. Why do I need the cast here? Because Angular can't determine so what we can't say like value is a cell state or cell value. Can I say that? It works. However, if I comment this out, row doesn't work. Okay. Okay. That works. So now we're going to get back our cell values. And the last thing we could do is we could do r.unique here. And so r.unique is going to guarantee that we get back unique values. And the reason we can do this, and this actually winds up being even a little bit better because I was going to use a hash map, right, or a map of some sort to guarantee unique values. But we don't have to do that here. With the r.unique, so you can see here that it filters out all the extra ones and twos, or all the extra ones. So we just get 1 and 2. So this running it through a pipe means that every item, right? So at first we go through and we try to filter it. If the filter fails, then we just go on to the next item, right? If it passes this, then we map out the value and then we check it for uniqueness. And so we optimize this loop to where here we go through everything, right? And we return the filtered array. Here we go through everything that's returned in the filtered array and we return the array of items, right? Here we only go through and map the items that have already been filtered. So the pipe is more like using a for loop, where we do multiple, right? We run all of these functions on each item in the row, and then we go to the next item. And we can stop at any point in this. So we don't have to go all the way through, which saves us a whole bunch of cycles, especially like in the case, like if we were to uncomment this and then just add like take like 5, right? You can't do that with right, it doesn't exist now, but if the take function existed, then what would happen is you would go all the way through the filter, you would go all the way through the map, and then you would take the first 5. we don't even account for the unique here, but we could just do r.take5 here. And I think we can just go cell value here. Does that not work? That's not the way to fix that. Yeah, I don't know why. And drop. I don't know. I don't need to figure out take. But it's an example, right? Where we could return the first 5 unique values. And if we don't have 5 unique values, then it'll return the first n up to 5, right? Whereas here, um, there's a lot more work with the maps and stuff like that. So our cell values to hide is this. Um, and really, we could return a cell state again. Um, and to hide equals this. And then what we could do is that. And we don't want pencil marks here. We want row values to hide. And really, we could just rename this to be row values to hide. Do we want to do that? Because this could be used in a bunch of different ways. So let's just do to hide. Um, and for right now, we'll just do this. And so what we're doing is we're taking our cell state, we're creating some new cell states out of it. And then we can just patch our state with cell values to hide, but we want a specific row. Because this is a specific row, but we could go with grid. I would love to be able to just put this in for a specific row. The state grid we've got this. We can patch the state. And I'm curious if we go with grid equals ... state grid, boom. And then here, and I think because this is an array, I can't override it, right? So grid row that works, and I could set the grid to the grid. Does that work? Do I like that? Line 63. What were you saying about line 63? Cell state. So here, I completely missed that NDP, and you were probably right. Finally cleared out some biters' nests. Man, that's so my first playthrough, I turned it to peaceful. Because I wanted to see just what the new stuff was. But clearing out biters, that sounds fun. I was watching some people build some space platforms, Michael. But you're saying, what if I changed this to this instead? A lot of code has changed. Okay. Yeah, a lot of code has changed. I wish I would have been paying better attention to chat. Because I would have liked to have seen what you were doing. And the row is the easiest way about going about this. I'm not sure if I really like what I'm doing here. And I probably better end on time today, or at least as close to on time as possible. Um, but here, now we can just say state.set row pencil marks to the updated row. And that at least gets us to the row pencil marks. Column and then region are the next two. Um, and the part that I wish was a little bit easier. I mean, one thing we could do, and this is kind of cheeky, but it's totally valid. um, is we could do this. Oh, it doesn't like this. What doesn't it like here? Argument of type cell state length to string blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, it doesn't like this at all. Um, which is fine. Yeah, it it's still ugly. Like I don't know how I feel about this. So you sniped me with the pipe stuff, right? So to explain a little bit about what happened, right? We went into this pipe function. Um, and this pipe function, going back a little bit, we're filtering out anything that has a nil value for value. So is not nil filters out anything that is null or undefined, but everything else is allowed to remain. Then we map it and we pull the value off. I wish I could get pluck to work here or something like that, but the typings just don't like me. And then unique has an issue here. Alien experience. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And this is so earlier. When I was talking about things like Elixir, there's F sharp, and there's a whole bunch of languages. If we were to rewrite this, um, and we're going through twice anyway, but we have to build up the list of values, right? We have to build up the list of values. But if we were to rewrite this using the operator that is in phase two, right? It would be this, and um, it would be basically row, and then we would pipe it, right? And here we would go filter, uh, and well, actually, it would be we could do it this way, right? So no, we would have to. Um, so the pipe on an array, well, filter, and then here we would filter out the is nil, is not nil, right? And then the next thing in the array would then be our map, right? And here we would now use the percent value. So it would be, we would get value in, and actually I think it's written like this. I don't remember. And then it becomes percent dot value, right? And this percent is the stand-in for the previous item in the. So I think here we would have to get, the first thing would have to be some sort of each function or thing like that. But we would need to convert it into each. And then this, and then the final thing would be our unique, right? Whatever our unique function is, right? We would pass in the percent. And so basically what would happen is we'd take the row, we would split it into each item, and for each item we would filter, map, and unique. And I'm not sure on the syntax because it's been a while, but this is a lot easier to read than, than this stuff here, right? The typings would probably be better. But beyond that, the huge benefit here is that we only run things when they need to, right? So if we don't pass the filter right away, we never get into the map or the unique checks, right? And that's the benefit here too, right? If we don't pass the filter, if the entire row is empty, this is just going to return an empty array, right? If we have 9 things, we'll run through 9 things. If we only have 4, we only run through 4 maps and 4 checks for uniqueness. We don't do that on everything, right? The benefit isn't huge here. And the main reason that I did it was to show, one way to do it. Ramda is a good functional library. This really shines when you get up into like hundreds of thousands, right? Or millions of items. Then you can really, yeah. Well, 4 of absolutely. Hey, Alien Experience, we're working on converting our Sudoku game over to using the signal store from RX or NGRX out of the original. We were originally using the component store. So we're converting it over to Signal Store, but we're also doing some thinking about what we're doing as we do the conversion. And then once we get the Signal Store in place, we're going to unit test the functions. So you'll see that we've got a bunch of things here, and like this stuff all needs to be moved into its own feature. So we're going to unit test the features, compose it all together. Once it's all composed together, these features actually will lend themselves well to moving into an xState type situation. So the ultimate end goal is to go with an xState. And set for unique, as you already said, yeah. And my bet is that underneath they're probably cheating and using, I don't know if Ramda is. I don't know if Ramda is using a set for unique, because their stuff tends to be geared towards performance, right? And if we go Like at this level, 100%, right? For of is fine. Um, map, filter, and then map is fine. I don't even think we need the unique because I don't think the double values hurt. I just threw it in there to show that we could do it. At the level that we're doing it, right? So at 81 items, there's not a whole bunch of memory leakage going on, right? Um, our space complexity really doesn't matter if we double the space, right? Um, if we went out to like 1,000 by 1,000 on our grid, which I don't even know how you would solve a Sudoku game of that size. Um, but at that level, unique by interesting. Let's go take a look at unique by. You guys are sniping me right at the end. I'm like, I gotta end, and you guys are like, dude, check this out. Unique. Huh. You're probably showing me that they're using a map underneath, right? Um, they are using a set. Okay. um, yeah. So unique by is using a set underneath. Um, I was hoping maybe something a little bit. I'd be tough though, right? And this is where you'll run into issues with like large data sets and things like that. Once you start going, you know, like in an RDBMS world, right? One of the best ways to kind of tank a query performance is to just throw a distinct on there, right? And in a lot of cases, people are like, "Oh yeah, just throw a distinct on there," um, and distinct can tank your query performance because the memory requirements, right? Um, it often will build new indexes on the fly, or who knows what they're doing to optimize it underneath, right? But when you throw a unique constraint on something, um, say we've got 1,000,000 items, right? Um, and we want to get unique items. And every item in that 1,000,000 items is unique. Now we've doubled the space, right? Because we've created this map, this set that's making it unique. Hopefully, what we're making it unique by is much smaller, but the space complexity theoretically is still the same size as the original set, right? So we've doubled our memory requirements or our disk space requirements or whatever. Um, so quite often, just throwing a distinct on something may be more expensive than you think. Usually, if we do a unique, then you want to do a take of something, right? So, um, especially in a pipe situation like this, we could go and we could say, hey, give me the first 10 unique items, right? In this case, it doesn't matter. We've only got 9 items. It's not that big of a right space complexity. We're using 9 integers. The set isn't going to be that big, right? But we need to be careful when using unique and things like that. And the for loop and this filter, right, turns this into right. We're gonna get a little bit of school here, right? But this becomes an O of n operation. Um, versus the O and right and what is it? It's usually K O of n. Is that it? I forget. Um, but this is denoting and really these are both essentially O of n at large, right? The distinction is usually only made in interviews and stuff, but like when you're discussing, right, O of n is still O of n. So row dot map, right, and then we did dot filter and then dot map, right? Where in this case k would be a 3 because we would go through this and then we would go back and update every cell. So it's 3 times O of n, our k becomes a 3. Here our k is only a 2, right? Because we go through the array once to do the filter mapping in unique, and then we go through it again, right? So there's a technicality here. Really, it's O of n versus O of n, right? If we want to discuss that. But throwing in the k shows that we do iterate over the same space twice. And there is some cost to that that we need to be aware of, right? At least we aren't doing like an O of n squared, right? And then things become, right? An O of n squared versus O of n is a big deal. And sometimes using a pipe can help to turn something that might be an O of n squared into an O of n, right? And we're getting into, we're getting into more theory here, and this is where people like to use words like performant or things like that when what they're really talking about is space or time complexity, right? And you could theoretically have something that has an O of 1 space complexity, right? Meaning that you only ever store one item as you work through it. My brain had to line those up, right? So you might only use one item in memory as you work through the array, but to do that, you might have to do an O of n squared, right? An O of n squared time complexity, right? So you might have to nest 2 for loops, right? The classic O of n is for I, right? And then for j, right? This is not O of 1. You are wrong. This is O of n squared, right? This is a classic O of n squared. Not necessarily, right? If we can say if j equals I, right? Then we're O of n squared here, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, well, actually I'm wrong. It doesn't even have to. Worst case scenario, this is O of n squared, right? Meaning that worst case scenario, so to your point, right, if we added our if statement in here, it does our filter, and then we loop over this again, right? This could theoretically be an O of n squared. However, this might be our time complexity, right? But this might have an O of n space complexity, meaning that we save more space. O of n space complexity means that we use the same amount of space as the array, right? O of 1 means that every operation only needs the space for one of whatever those operations is, right? And so this trade-off in time complexity may be worth it if we're memory bound, right? The other way around, we could have And right, we could have an O of n squared space complexity with an O of 1 time complexity, right? And quite often, the space complexity, think about something like your database indexes, right? Or maps that you might build to quickly get to an item, right, in a search, right? You go and you sort your indexes, right? Easy ways to get to items in something. Or potentially hash maps or sets or maps or things like that. Quite often, their insert and iteration has a higher complexity. They're like adding to them, removing from them, things like that has a higher complexity. Could be O of n squared, like storage complexity. But the trade-off is that you get near instant access, right? O of 1 access means I can go straight to that item, right? And so to get O of n squared, you'd really have to work, like your storage would need, right? You'd need a really, really probably complex matrix of some sort that would look at every item, and based on every item, based on every other item, right? You could get to O of n squared. If you're time bound, right? Say maybe you're doing like trading or things like that, but you've got tons and tons of space, right? You've got infinite RAM, we could say. As far as our program's concerned, we've got infinite RAM, and really the amount of time that it takes us to do things is our bottleneck, right? In this case, we might make the trade-off for much more memory or much more, disk space for the speed of getting at what we need to get at, right? So quite often, things may match up, right? We might get an O of n space complexity and an O of n time complexity to our algorithms. But in many cases, if we think about things, we may be able to trade like some memory, right? Like a hash set or a map of some sort, which is going to increase our memory storage, right? Or an O of 1 lookup, right? And it may not go as bad as O of n squared. It may be O n log n, right? Something like that, where it grows faster than the number of items, but it's a curve that kind of levels out over time. But we're trading off that memory for the ability to access things quickly, right? So that's the reason that I enjoy exploring things like this, right? And showing things like it gives us the ability to talk about. You can tell how long somebody's been programming by their answers, right? And what do I mean by that? If you go to somebody who, and this isn't in every case, right? I'm making a generalization, and it's a bit of a joke, but there's also a little bit of truth to it, right? There's always, well, I don't want to say always, but there's usually a little bit of truth to jokes, right? But if you go to a more junior developer and you say, "Hey, how do you do this?" They're going to be like, "Oh, just do this," right? That's what you want to do. If you go to the more senior a developer gets, right? When you go to them, and juniors typically run into this quite a bit, and you'll see this in feedback in forums and stuff like that. I went to the senior and asked a question, and he's like, "Oh, it depends." And then we launched into an hour-long discussion where I was like, "Dude, I just wanted to know how to sort," right? That's the problem with us as we get to be more senior. When you're thinking about a system as a whole, time and space complexity trade-offs make sense, right? There's almost always a trade-off to every decision you make. There's never a best solution. Well, I don't want to say never. There usually what is the best solution is very situational based on the trade-offs you need to make, right? That's the best way for me to put it. And that's as you get higher and higher in your career, you start to realize this more and more. And that's why, you spend more time in meetings as you get promoted more and more because you're discussing these trade-offs, right? Um, sure, we can get an O of 1 lookup, but for 9 items, is it really worth, the extra space complexity? Why not just go with the brute force solution? It doesn't matter, right? And everybody's like, oh, brute force, we hate brute force. But for 9 items, brute force doesn't suck, right? Brute force is something that everybody can maintain. Brute force is something that everybody understands, and brute force fits easily within our memory constraints, and it's usually easier for people to test. When somebody runs into this in my code, now they're like, wait, what's R? And what is R dot? Wait, what's going on here? This looks kind of like an array, but what's going on here, right? So we've added some other complexity, right? And it's trade-offs, right? It depends, right? It depends, right? There's always trade-offs to everything. And so this is why at university and different places you're always taught big O notation. And the interesting thing is quite often it's discussed in time complexity, but a lot of times people aren't exposed to the space complexity, which is the interesting part of big O, right? Like, if you're not talking time and space complexities, then usually what you're doing is you're trying to bash somebody over the head. Like, oh, look at your stuff. It's O of n squared. Look at mine. It's O of n. Blah 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 blah. Rah, 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 right? And of course, you're completely ignoring the fact that behind the scenes you take up 4 times as much space and things like that, right? So there's always trade-offs to everything. Yep, my GitHub commit chart on my non-work account getting lighter and less dense after a factory game comes out. But in this case, it will be only one loop, no NS. Exactly, right? But these are the kind of discussions that I enjoy having, and they're the kind of discussions that are when you want to go from junior to senior, you need to start looking. Like when you look for a good junior dev, what you want is somebody who is very focused on their framework, very focused on their language, shows a lot of passion, shows the ability to learn and the desire to learn. That's an excellent quality junior developer, right? Once you look for a senior developer, or you look to move that junior developer to a senior developer, now what you're looking for is you want that junior developer to start looking more holistically, right? They need to start looking at, hey, is the code I'm writing affecting other parts of the system? Is the code I'm writing, does it exist in other parts of the system, right? So we're getting a more holistic approach, right? As you go from senior to like a tech lead or a staff or an architect or something like that, now we're looking at everything as a whole, and we're looking at trade-offs, right? So your junior, you want them focused very, very narrowly and tightly. And as a junior, perfecting your craft with your chosen language, your chosen frameworks, your chosen whatever, right? That's your job. You're perfecting your craft, right? Once you feel like you're very, very comfortable and you've started to perfect that, it's now time to start looking at the bigger picture, right? How does my feature fit into the rest of the software as a whole? How does what I'm doing now affect somebody else who's working on this other ticket, right? Things like that. That moves you into the more senior roles, right? Once you want to get into the like staff and distinguished and architecture levels, now you're looking at how does my decision affect the business, right? And it's more than just things like this, like the discussion I have here, right? Like how many developers know Ramda? Um, so if we write our code using Ramda, we may get more performant code, but we're also potentially limiting the pool of potential devs, right? That's why a lot of businesses will make the decision to pick React, and it's a smart decision, right? Because when you look at the pool of Vue developers, Angular developers, and React developers, well, React dwarfs both Vue and Angular, right? Maybe. I don't know what the numbers are now, but that's the way it's been for a long time. So that's a very smart business decision. Even if technically we think Angular or Vue is a better choice, there's always the trade-offs, right? And so, as you're moving through your career, and you want to move to that next step, you need to be looking at the next bigger picture, right? So I really got to end. I'm an hour over, and you guys sniped me right when I tried to end. Yeah, in this case, you're absolutely right, DenDP, and I'm not trying to beat you over the head with this. This pipe could easily be converted into a for loop, and it's something that could be maintained. Yeah, explicit types, and that's the thing that's frustrating here, and that's one of the frustrating things with Ramda, right? Like I spent more time struggling with the types than actually writing the code. That's a trade-off, right? This code is pretty expensive. I actually think, we'll go to a for loop. We'll do a for each. Actually, it's not a for each. I would do a reduce here. Yeah, I think we'll turn this into a reduce. And in functional programming, almost everything starts with a reduce. But I don't like you said, NDP, I don't like this, and I don't like the fact that there's a lot here that I don't like. So we'll convert this to a reduce. I'm going to pull Ramda out of the project. I think this is the second time I've pulled it out. But I need to end now. Man, you just sniped me at the end too. No, I've got to end. Tuesday. The way my calendar looks right now, I think Tuesday will happen, and Thursday. I'm going to go block that time out. So Tuesday we'll come back. We'll convert this to a for loop and remove Ramda. So that's what we'll do on Tuesday. We'll keep moving along. We need to get the rows done, the columns done, and then we also need to get the regions, and then our pencil marks are done. Ramda is a very cool library, and I love it, but there are reasons that it doesn't show up everywhere, and a lot of those have to do, well, sniping, Marcus. Good job sniping. We'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for joining me.